it's tough with this society to try and figure out what's coming up next. The release that everybody gets from climbing, the culture is amazing. I can't think of any other sport that it has as good a culture as climbing does. In 1989, that is when I went to the benchmark over in Farmington. Climbed at the benchmark and then decided that we could go climb outside. So we went to Rattlesnake out in Canada, Grand Ledge, Lion's Head up in Canada, and then started competing and route setting, and then ended up competing in Chicago and Illinois and Ohio and Michigan, really. We rented a house in Redford. That is when I was teaching gymnastics and built a wall in our backyard. And the wall in our backyard, it was 8 feet wide and flipped up to 16 feet tall. We had maybe a dozen holds, not very many. And we used a combination of holds that we bought and some wooden blocks. Yeah, so the holds that we made in the wall in our backyard that we just did on a table, we poured concrete and we took the washers in the back and then we welded washers on the sides so that it would hold the concrete. The wall was adjustable too. It was vertical mostly, and then you could make it overhanging, which was really cool back then because that was 1989 and 90. Opening Pontiac in the beginning was a combination of things. So one, I was training and competing and doing okay, but also I'd gotten laid off from my job. So for 6 months I was pretty much doing nothing but climbing and playing, and during that time, which was in 93, we said, well, we should build a training center. So we drove around all over, of course, and we weren't prepared to build anything building-wise, but we found this building, and the guy who owned it said, oh, that's our personal garage space. So we cleaned out 13 cars, a dozen motors and transmissions, and just shoveled grease and junk off the floor, put new doors on. There was no electricity, no plumbing, and no gas in this building at the time. So we ran almost 10 miles of wire. Everything we built here, we designed and built ourselves. Even the first couple of years, we had a lot of word of mouth and community come in. There weren't a whole lot of gyms, maybe a couple dozen or more in the country, but this was, at the time, one of the tallest gyms. And so we did hold the Nationals here in 96, the AFCF Nationals, and then in 97, the JCC, which was the Junior Nationals. A lot of the names that you see today that are the old schoolers, Hans Florine and Robin Irvisfield, Mike Pont, and Chris Sharma, Steve Hong, Beth Rodden, and there's a whole slew of young kids that were all 14 years old at the time, which are now all professional climbers, and because a lot of that started here and some of the other gyms. Then we were the only gym, as far as I know, in the country to close the gym for a week and take our staff out climbing around the country. And each year it got better, so we were going to places like the New River in Kentucky to begin with, and then we went to Yosemite and Las Vegas, and Waco Tanks, up into Canada. So we got to climb a lot of cool places. So starting in Ann Arbor, which came after 6 years in 99-ish, was kind of at the time, a lot of our demographic was going to this other bouldering gym in Ann Arbor that was small and not well kept. And so they came over and climbed at our place, and that's obviously an hour away, so that made sense to go there next. So we started building that gym, and that worked out really well because, again, we got a lot of community support, and then we got a lot of financial support from friends and family and that kind of thing. We looked for a building and didn't find one, and we found a builder who was building to suit. So that building was built for us. We took everything we knew in that 6 years and brought it to Ann Arbor, and so we did make changes. As the clientele progressed in their ability, the walls got a lot difficult and steeper. We still kept a lot of easy things for all the beginning people and new people to come in, but we definitely had added a lot more. And a lot of it was reminiscent of Thailand and Spain and Italy. We built those walls from features from those countries.
I think what Pontiac did for a lot of people is that it did introduce climbing. It was my first, my first introduction to climbing. It's where I started climbing.
This gym is 6,000 square feet, and it's pretty rare to find a 50-foot clear span in a 6,000 square foot building. So it worked out very well, but there just wasn't enough space to do all the other things that we were developing, like the clinics and lessons and the kids programs and those kinds of things.
Yeah, so you can't find these buildings that just exist, so you have to build them. And we found the right location, but of course it didn't have the height. So.
Moving was interesting because there was a lot of diehards and old schoolers that were just like, oh, we're not going to drive 20 minutes to the other gym. That's crazy. Of course, they're all there.
You still hear those stories. People still come in, oh, I used to climb back in Pontiac 20 years ago, whatever. And I think that's more of the difficulties of losing that space.
So in the beginning, I think a lot of the gyms were trying to capture the natural feel of rock climbing and colors and the holds and that kind of thing. But in the end, it only takes a couple of months for everything to look similar to the same color. So the advent of making color routes out of the holds and not the tape was definitely evolutionary. Making the walls colors that do contrast but don't disguise all the holds makes better sense. So we went with some pretty wild colors in Madison Heights.
The fun thing about building this place is that it was still built by Planet Rock employees. When you walk around Madison Heights, when you walk around Ann Arbor, when Pontiac was still around, you'd get people that walk in, oh, I helped build this place. What do you mean you helped build it? It's anything from T-nut holes to putting panels up to laying flooring to cleaning. It was. Those kind of memories aren't something you just forget.
We did take everything that we knew from Pontiac and put it into Ann Arbor, and then we took everything we knew from Ann Arbor and put it into Madison Heights. And now with the combination of all three of those, our next couple of gyms, the next one being in Grand Rapids, will have some pretty neat stuff.
It's come at the right time. The climbing community out there is thriving. I think what we can bring in, what we've learned in the last 25 years to a community like that, is going to continue to be something special. I think Grand Rapids will show that. I think we're not limited out there by space, which is a hurdle we've always kind of had. I think competitive-wise, it's going to be pretty unique, what it has to offer.
competition-wise, it's definitely reached out to more parkour and kind of ninja style, which is only a very small part of the picture of climbing in general. So we'll definitely have more wall topography that imitates the places, especially the more popular places that people will go, like Fontainebleau and Spain and Mallorca and in Thailand with Altufas and stalactites, and Vegas, and then Yosemite, of course, with the granite-style climbing, and then, of course, Kentucky and West Virginia.
I feel like Grand Rapids has been a long time coming, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
For me, climbing has evolved from physical and mental challenges and the gyms, of course, now into a parallel life challenge. So a lot of the things that we do in every day, I guess climbing has taught me how to get through it and overcome adversity. Well, I mean, part of the culture is we have had a lot of people meet and change a lot more people's lives than we ever thought. We never even thought about that. I meet people now in both gyms that say, yeah, this is how we met, these are our kids, and now their kids are climbing, and we even have third generation kids climbing already, so it's amazing how much has come out of it. Our climbing team and some of the people that have come out of Michigan itself has amazed me and a lot of other people that have come to me and said, how is this happening? Because we produce some of the world's most competitive climbers.
Where I see Planet Rock going, I hope it doesn't change. It doesn't change much anyways. I hope the growth comes from more relationships, more education, more fitness, more climbing. Expanding the gym, the only thing it does is give more opportunity for people to experience it. Whether they come for the climbing, fitness, setting goals, training for their next trip, looking to meet a friend. I think you'll find that at Planet Rock. No matter if it's 3 gyms, 5 gyms, I think the people here will keep the atmosphere going.
We figured it'd probably last about 10 years. Now we're at 25. Who'd have thought?